It all started on a summer day in 2009 when free zipper packages arrived on the doorsteps of Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney Studios. They were anonymous packages with no postmarks or return addresses. No one saw them being delivered, and each only had a simple note attached which read, "I have created something I love from me to you, Bad Mouse." Strange, but all the recipients had decided to humor the packages anyway, thinking it was fan mail or something of that sort. When they were opened, they revealed several videotapes. They all had titles hastily scribbled on: Bad Mouse Episode 1, Bad Mouse Episode 2, and so on. There were 13 in total, which the last of which had an additional notation reading, "This is the last." Also, the contents of the tape. They were contained what everyone assumed to be Bad Mouse, who was a mouse sock puppet, complete with two large ears, eyes, and buck teeth, all clearly made with paper. But it had arms and it was clearly stitched on a post and a cartoony tail that did not match the rest of the sock puppet. All the tapes were in black and white and had very simple premises. A high-pitched, nasally voice. Bad Mouse talked about numbers, the alphabet, animals, colors, and other very straightforward topics. They were only about 4 or 5 minutes long each, with no background music, title cards, or anything, just Bad Mouse talking. Nothing was too unusual or frightening about the show, so to speak. Clearly it was done on a very low budget, but what exactly was the point of it? It surely would not entertain anyone over the age of 3. Some dismissed it as some kind of stupid prank, while others joked that whoever delivered these tapes to the studios was banking on Bad Mouse being made into an actual show. Unfortunately, it was not how it worked. And after all the episodes were viewed and everyone got a good laugh at someone's pitiful attempt to stardom, the episodes were all dismissed and promptly canned, for there were some who found Bad Mouse to be unsettling and creepy, but would never bring that up in front of their colleagues. That was supposed to be the end of it, but just 1 week later, more packages arrived, with the same note now reading, "From me to you, Bad Mouse." The "I have something to love" being notably omitted. Inside the packages were 13 tapes, just like last time, and when everyone gathered around to watch them, they were actually surprised. While each episode was about the same length as before, the show actually had color, plots, music, title cards, and more sock puppet characters, and the environments even though still clearly made on the smallest ounce of budget. The visual effects were shoddy at best. Whoever was voicing Bad Mouse clearly voiced the other sock puppet characters. There was a strange hum of static in the background, and occasionally a loud beeping noise that came from somewhere where out of nowhere and bloodied ears of all those who heard it. Needless to say, it was not nearly enough to convince the executives to be a fandom of the idea of greenlighting it, and Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network all tossed the tapes into the garbage. Bad Mouse is getting desperate, a Nickelodeon executive quipped after sipping his coffee. Was that the end of it? Everyone thought so until a week had passed and 3 more packages, just bearing at the words Bad Mouse, arrived at each studio, and all 3 went straight to the trash can. However, a curious Cartoon Network intern secretly fished their package out of the trash. He had heard of the Bad Mouse's depravity from his colleagues, and as an avid collector of lost and unknown media on the side, this would be absolutely perfect for him. He turned the tapes home and immediately popped them into his old VCR. Judging by the small increase in quality and the second set round of packages, the intern assumed that whoever was behind Bad Mouse had finally learned his lesson. But each tape showed a disturbing clip of the exact same thing. No color, no plots, no music, no title cards, no other characters and no environments. Just Bad Mouse sitting motionless and staring straight at the camera. Every 30 seconds or so, the sock puppet would say the words, "getting desperate," but only in syllables. Get, ting, des, per, it. The intern did not scare too easily, and he did not think much of it, other than being pretty odd, but Shrugging, he popped the tapes out of the old VCR and placed them onto his other tapes and DVDs he acquired throughout the years as he went to bed. No more packages showed up after that. No more tapes, no more Bad Mouse. The whole ordeal seemed to be over. And it was about a year later when Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network's channels were all hijacked. By this point, everyone had basically forgotten about Bad Mouse, and it was now just a fleeting memory of some desperate, deprived soul thinking it would make it big, something to bring up if you wanted to point and laugh. But the first signs of trouble were on Nickelodeon, especially Nick Jr. The characters Moose and Z had in between blocks where they provided information and education between shows. On the morning of July 12, 2010, a segment where Moose was supposed to teach the audience about names was hijacked by none other than Bad Mouse. In the middle of speaking, Moose went frozen and silent. The music cut out and the screen glitched until Bad Mouse was there for the entire world to see. Though no one watching at home could recognize what they were seeing, the network executives certainly did. Bad Mouse spoke into a bunny character, which was just clearly a stuffed animal and was aptly named Bunny. About the importance of sharing, the mouse sock puppet ripped a toy truck out of Bunny's hands and ran away laughing. Bunny just stood there, staring at the camera for a minute. After that, it switched to a scene of Bad Mouse riding a little bike through the very poorly made cardboard field. A kindergarten play would create better sets than Bad Mouse ever could. He sang the song that sounded like complete nonsense in a voice that it would make ears bleed. "That petty little asshole," said one of the network executives. It seemed like they did not air Bad Mouse, then Bad Mouse was just going to do it himself. The network executives were too embarrassed to simply power down the channel over what was definitely a stupid prank. They thought it was just slapping with technical difficulties on it would do the trick every time, but that did not stop Bad Mouse. For the next 2 weeks, all the shows on air were cut off and the broadcasts became a mess due to Bad Mouse jumbling everything up. Bad Mouse would always return, just playing the exact same 13 crappy episodes on repeat. Calls were made by angry parents and their confused children, and each channel promised to resolve these issues. But they never could. While all three channels were determined to solve the issues, in the grand scheme of things, no one took them that seriously. They came off as more annoying than anything. Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network made it absolutely clear that this was not their doing and that their broadcasts had been hijacked, and they did not know who it was or where it was coming from. With those statements out to linger in the air, the internet began to fill with rumors and speculation. Everyone was curious about the problems their children's television's channels were having. There were still people assuming it was a very clever prank and was the work of some people who had nothing better to do than to get a rise out of these channels with their viewers. Others had darker theories. Many of them poked fun at them for just being stupid as Bad Mouse itself, ranging from Bad Mouse being the work of disgruntled employee, an artificial intelligence, and a paranormal phenomenon, aliens, or some kind of supernatural or superhuman ability. In today's world, we were all pretty cynical and seemed to disregard more dramatic notions because it does not align with our short-order view of reality. Despite the many rumors as July came to a close, things seemed to be getting better. By then, the executives at Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney had found a way to block off the messaging and instead broadcast a rather default bumper or a continuous feed of static for the channels until they could figure out the issue. As a result, the hijackings had slowed down significantly. They defeated Bad Mouse. By September 1st, there was no more hijackings at all, so it seemed that Bad Mouse had simply moved on to other things. Everyone was relieved, but there was still an occasional hushed murmur that whoever was behind these hijackings would be back, because clearly Bad Mouse seemed like a persistent weirdo. Some even went as far to say that Bad Mouse would bring violence with it, which was laughed off as completely and utterly ridiculous. How very wrong those people were. For a long time there was nothing like before. All of it was claimed before the storm, and boy did it storm. 2011 was oncoming and going with the unusual happenings. SpongeBob cooked Krabby Patties, Mickey Mouse took us on adventures around his clubhouse, The Amazing World of Gumball was premiering its first season and a massive success. Even once the active internet forums were completely empty, with Bad Mouse just being touted as a fun, bizarre little piece of lost media that was stuck in the past. All was well until the summer arrived. There were so many more hijackings. All three networks were affected. Instead of just being Bad Mouse episodes, they were much more disturbing. Each one lasted anywhere from 15 minutes to a full hour, depending on the severity, and each one was worse than the last, beginning the same way, either flickering, frames repeating themselves, sound not syncing up, waving and jittering, or random pauses. Something would always happen. Sometimes the screens would just be replaced with deeply disturbing edits, whatever character was on screen, often making them appear angry at the audience. Sometimes the screen would fade into a bloodied static for a few moments, then go back to the normal programming. Sometimes random images and videos would flash on the screen, such as pictures of the White House on fire, footage of mice, someone walking outside at night, and random YouTube videos. But there were also disturbing imagery of people being tortured, mutilated, beheaded, people being shot at point-blank range, and even all manners of illegal pornography. Sometimes even an extremely loud beeping sound would bloody the ears of all who heard it, not unlike it was heard in the head of the first Bad Mouse videotapes, blocking out everything that was being said. Sometimes vague, threatening messages were displayed such as, "I am here. Is it getting desperate? I hate you all. I have to get attention. I'm desperate. You love me, but I don't love you. Bad Mouse is getting desperate. I'm going to show you the world. Bad Mouse is getting worse. Me, 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 me. Attention." Some even claim to have images of Bad Mouse himself in the background scenes of terror and bloodshed, though they were not usually clear. Occasionally a clip of Bad Mouse would be shown and then just disappear. All of this was just absolutely chilling, especially considering it was showed to young children. But it was far from over. During a hijacking of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse on the morning of July 25th, a message from Bad Mouse claimed that August 12th would be Death Day. Everyone's blood ran cold. What did Bad Mouse mean? No one could know, but the image was already out there, so everyone braced for the worst. Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network executives were all in the panic. They all cut broadcasts, including off-air and live shows, and immediately called up their network's technicians. To everyone's horror, the technicians were unable to locate the origin of the hijackings. They could find no source. No one was even able to log in the programming or mess with the technical equipment, and no technician was able to determine the cause. There was no origin software or any of the sort. Security cameras showed no suspicious activity. Arguments ensured, fingers were pointed, hardworking employees were fired without a warning, and the situation looked grimmer and grimmer. This was all out of war, and no one knew why it was happening or how to stop it. By August, the situation had spiraled out of control, and it was no longer just a technical issue, but an outright attack on the three major children's networks. The situation spiraled into full chaos, with Bad Mouse still unstoppable, and the network still in chaos. By now, the technicians who were responsible for maintaining these networks, getting up them and running, had been fired, leaving all the channel's executives at a total loss of what to do. All they could do was wait and see. On August 12th, the atmospheres at Free Studios were intense. They were made into conscious, direct decision to stay open, not wishing to appear weak or stupid, and allowing to show Bad Mouse that they were not afraid of it. Their broadcasts of beloved children's shows began as normal. For a while, everything actually seemed relatively normal. No hijackings happened yet, but just as everyone at the studios was beginning to think that it might be okay, something happened. A massacre of unimaginable brutality. A tragedy of such scale that the world would never be the same again. In a little over an hour, 6 napalm bombs went off at each studio. In the blink of an eye, 115 people were dead and hundreds more were injured. They came out of nowhere without a warning, no way to tell who or what or where they came from. One Nickelodeon employee, Mike Ewart, was speaking with a colleague near the front doors. One moment she was laughing and smiling, sipping her Starbucks coffee, and the next she was completely and utterly obliterated. Ewart said that it was just like slow motion. I saw her body just vaporize. I felt her warmth just vanish, and I felt her coffee splash on me. I was just numb. The police found a lone Bad Mouse sock puppet lying amongst the rubble at the Disney studio, charred and damn near impossible to identify what it even was. That was all they had to go on physical evidence, besides the bombs themselves, which they were found to be homemade devices filled with both black powder and highly flammable petrochemical substance, both of which were then placed in 3-gallon plastic gas containers. Each one was placed with dense areas within each target to maximize the death toll. A task force of hundreds of police officers from all over the country and federal agencies converted into all 3 studios. Thousands of leads were investigated, and they all came up empty. No one saw any suspicious activity at any time of any of the studios, and no one who could have or would have done such a horrific thing. FBI analysis even took a look at the original tapes, and each one were rejected by the 3 studios to see if there was something they missed. Still nothing. The 3 targets were devastated, but Nickelodeon building received the greatest damage, with 3/5 of the building destroyed. Much of the buildings were rendered inhabitable by the immense heat and the force of explosions, and while they have been repaired and remodeled, the damaged portions have been sealed off and turned into memorials. The perpetrator behind Bad Mouse is a mystery. No suspects or leads were ever found. Clearly they were a lunatic with an insane dream that they wanted to see realized. Who wanted to make a big impact on the world? They went off into a deep end when their show was rejected. Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney all closed for months after the incident and are still getting back on their feet today. As time went on, people began to wonder why the networks would never make a statement on the incident. Many thought that maybe it would scare everyone from watching their programming, but there's definitely more to than that. Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network executives were all interviewed by the press, but they were extremely vague, simply saying that they were still working on the little something to pay the respects to the victims, and they were never commented on Bad Mouse itself. But all the scars still exist. Bad Mouse still burn into the minds of those who live through it, and many who are too afraid to talk about it or disgusted by the memories they have. But a few brave souls have come forward to share their experiences throughout interviews and documentaries. Even the intern was interviewed, though he wished to remain anonymous. No one knows who Bad Mouse really is, and no one will ever will. People who have wanted to know more about the perpetrator of such heinous crime. It was beyond obvious that their motives were, but the question of who was encrypted as Bad Mouse, such as Jack the Ripper, the Zodiac Killer, will simply never be known. All we know is that disturbed and deprived minds still exist somewhere in this world, and for that, the world is ever scarier and darker place.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.